From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 5, California leaders react as President Trump doubles down today on his threat to deploy troops to San Francisco.
San Francisco was truly one of the great cities of the world. And then 15 years ago, it went wrong. It went woke.
Plus, will new rules for the insurance sector bring some relief to homeowners? A breakdown of new laws for Californians.
We want insurance. We need someone to provide it. I think we need to do everything we can to make sure we can all keep it.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Andrea Nakano.
And I'm Brian Hackney. We'll begin tonight with another threat from the president to deploy National Guard troops to San Francisco. In an interview on Fox News earlier this morning, President Trump said that he had unquestioned power to do so. Take a listen.
But we're going to go to San Francisco, and we're going to make it great. We're going to make it great. It'll be great. Again, San Francisco is a great city. It won't be great if it keeps going like this. But don't forget, I can use the Insurrection Act. 50% of the presidents almost have used that. And that's unquestioned power. I choose not to. I'd rather do this. It can be fixed. At some point, it gets to where you can.
Mr. Trump has claimed that California leaders have asked for federal intervention. Governor Newsom took to X to respond shortly after the interview aired, writing, quote, "Fact check, nobody wants you here." We reached out to Mayor Daniel Lurie's office for comment as well. Spokesperson pointed us to his statements from earlier in the week saying crime in San Francisco is down 30%. At a separate event today, we asked State Senator Scott Wiener for his reaction.
He keeps saying that San Francisco wants the U.S. military to be on our streets. We don't. We want them to stay away. We don't need the military here. We don't want the military here.
With California lawmakers opposed to the notion, the recurring question is, can the president do this? And for an answer, we have CBS News legal analyst Jessica Levinson. Jessica, thanks for joining us. If the president insists on sending in troops, does he have a legal basis for doing it?
Maybe. There's a federal statute called the Insurrection Act. It dates back all the way to the 1800s. It's actually a couple of different pieces of legislation, and it does give the president the power to potentially send in the military, to federalize the National Guard and send them in to directly enforce domestic law. But the statute essentially reads as, if these things happen, then the president has the power. So if President Trump does, in fact, try to invoke the Insurrection Act, which would be the next move, it would be past just trying to, what we've seen, federalize the National Guard. If he does try and do that, then we can assume that there will be lawsuits and there will be federal judges struggling with this question of how much can you second guess a president, meaning how much deference does a president get? And are the preconditions met? It would look a lot like the arguments that we've been having with respect to whether or not the president has the power to federalize the National Guard.
Well, it seems to me the next step would be defining what an insurrection is. I mean, inevitably, isn't this going to end up in court if President Trump does decide to proceed?
Yes, exactly. So we're going to be seeing, again, the same questions about, does the president have the power to say, this looks like an insurrection, or this looks like a rebellion, or this looks like the type of situation where a state isn't able to protect their residents' constitutional rights, such that I, as president, have the power to say, I am going to send in the military. Let's remember that the Insurrection Act, unlike just the power that the president has to federalize the National Guard, the Insurrection Act would suspend posse comitatus. Posse comitatus is a separate statute that says the military does not directly enforce domestic law.
Let me ask you something else, just kind of a bigger picture thing, and it has to do with, can the president defy the Supreme Court? I think the longest serving Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Marshall, and again, we're going back to the 19th century, but longest serving Chief Justice, made a ruling in Georgia that Andrew Jackson, as president, pretty much said, well, thanks for your point of view, Supreme Court, but I'm going to ignore it. Can the president simply defy the Supreme Court?
No, that's not how our system is designed. Our system is designed, we've understood all the way back centuries now. The Supreme Court can get the final word on what the Constitution means and whether or not an action is constitutional or not. Now, certainly there can be vigorous arguments, but our understanding for a long period of time has been if there is a Supreme Court order, then the co-equal branches comply with that order. We should be clear that I think your question is exactly right, saying Supreme Court order, because the system is also designed to allow presidents, if they lose cases in the lower courts, to appeal and to appeal vigorously and to make their cases very strongly before the courts. But if the Supreme Court says X, then a president doesn't get to say, well, go pound sand, I'm going to do Y.
We're going to tell it to Andrew Jackson. Jessica Levinson, CBS News legal analyst and law professor at Loyola Marymount University. Jessica, appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And from that to a first look at the forecast, and for that, here's Darren Peck.
You know, Brian, we got some rain coming our way at the end of this week as we start to get towards the weekend. Friday into Saturday, there's a chance for showers, and we are going to talk about that in great detail coming up in the complete forecast. But before we get to that, we need to talk about how tomorrow is going to be just like today. Look out that window. How fantastic was this weekend? The next 2 days are just like it. And that stands out because some of these numbers are like 7 to 8 degrees above average for this time of year. If you take a look at some of those locations inland, go ahead and pick out Livermore's number. You're going to be 82 tomorrow. It's going to be 82 in Concord, 83 in Santa Rosa. San Jose, you'll be doing it as well. And if we can just finish up this tour with a close-up look at San Francisco, that does say 78 tomorrow for the daytime high. Show you how this changes pretty noticeably by the middle of the week, and then we will detail the rain. For now, Brian, back to you.
All righty, Darren, thank you. As you know, the recent rains have lowered the threat of wildfire in the area, but the challenge of maintaining fire insurance is a year-round problem for many in California. And as a result, a number of new laws have just been adopted that aim to stabilize the home insurance market before and after a major catastrophe. And for that, here's John Ramos.
Unless you paid cash or own your home outright, property insurance isn't an option. It's required to maintain a mortgage. And that makes California's insurance crisis a universal problem and one the legislature is getting very involved with. Marin County has probably been more proactive about cutting wildfire risk than anywhere else in the Bay Area. Central Marin Fire Chief Todd Lando says many homeowners are doing what they can to remove fuels around their homes, but that doesn't always come cheap.
It's taken years of education and efforts to get outreach into the communities to help people understand what their real vulnerabilities are, especially in Zone 0. The first 5 feet around the house plays a big role, and sometimes, depending on what your property looks like, it could be a big expense. You may need to hire professionals.
So the governor just signed Assembly Bill 888, which establishes a grant program to help low and middle income homeowners in high fire risk areas to pay to remove flammable vegetation and install more fire-resistant roofs and materials on homes. And it's not just about safety, it's also about insurability. Another new law addresses how victims of wildfire are paid by their insurance companies. Currently, insurers of homes lost in declared disasters will only get 30% of their policy limits unless homeowners supply a complete list of all that was lost.
Rebuilding after a total loss is overwhelming. People are forced to remember every toothbrush, pan, pair of shoes. It adds needless pain to an already traumatic experience.
Senate Bill 495 tried to stop that by requiring insurers to pay 100% of a policy's limits on personal property loss without itemizing the possessions.
In the process in the legislature, the insurance industry whittled that down. So the bill, as it was signed by the governor last week, is 60% of that personal property coverage will be paid without that itemized list. But it still improves the situation for consumers who are being asked to itemize things in the wake of a fire and re-traumatize themselves.
With many insurers drawing back from the market, many homeowners have been forced into the California FAIR Plan. It was meant to be the insurer of last resort, but has now grown to become the second largest policy writer in the state.
But the FAIR Plan was not designed to absorb the number of policyholders at the current rate. This came to a head in February when the FAIR Plan requested financial assistance from its member companies to ensure claims continue to be paid from the Palisades and Eaton fires. This measure provides the FAIR Plan additional resources to ensure they have adequate claims paying capacity.
AB 226 helps stabilize the FAIR Plan by issuing state-backed bonds and lines of credit so insurance companies can spread out over time any bailouts of the FAIR Plan that may be necessary following a major disaster. Finally, SB 429 will begin the process of creating a statewide wildfire risk model generated by public universities so future pricing decisions won't be relying solely on private insurance company data, usually shrouded in secrecy. There may not be a lot of trust in the insurance industry right now, but Battalion Chief Lando says we can't really avoid the relationship.
We want insurance. We need someone to provide it. I think we need to do everything we can to make sure we can all keep it.
Well, he spent nearly a decade in the NFL anchoring the 49ers defense. Now, one Hall of Famer is tackling a different kind of challenge. Stay with us.
All right, let's get caught up on this chance for rain that's coming our way. It's focused on next weekend. So as we saw in the last visit, the real focus for the next 2 days is sunny and warm, just like you've been having. There's no change. Near 80 inland, mid-70s in the city. Let's go find that rain. Sitting way out here in the Gulf of Alaska. So you can see there's a beautiful storm spinning out there. Look at that structure to it. That one's not ours. Let's put this into the Futurecast and we'll watch. That storm goes into Canada. Keep your eye out here so we can watch the next several storms come in. There's the next one. That one also stays a little too far north for us. But the third one brings a cold front that comes right down towards us. And I'm just going to pause that at the start. And you can see how we've got that weak little front that's going to come right. In fact, I'll get out of the way. Look how we've got that weak little front coming right into the bay. How's that for aim? Now, that doesn't look very impressive from this standpoint. Look at the timestamp. That's Friday night at 11. Let's come back out for the wide view. So we're not really going to get a whole lot from that. Let's get a better handle on what we will get from that. And for that, let's scale this down and bring in a little more detail on it. Instead of looking at this from a Pacific-wide basin, let's go to that longer range forecast where we can slow it down and get a closer look at home. That's that weak little line of rain we were just looking at Friday night. We'll get some rain out of it, but it's not much. That's just the weak little cold front like the preview that comes through Friday night. In fact, we'll take it from the start through like the finish. At this point, the timing on that is late Friday night. It's early enough on these. The timing's probably going to shift a little. So will the intensity, either up or down. But this is where things stand now. And there's been some pretty good consistency over the last several days. For like the last 2 days we've been looking at this, the pattern is the same. We get this first weak little front that comes through on Friday, and then going into the weekend, the more impressive one shows up right there. So that now gets us into Saturday. And at this point, it's Saturday night late into Sunday, meaning that when we look at the forecast for when we're going to get the rainfall totals, and we could get maybe 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch of rain out of this, technically at this point, most of that's going to come Sunday morning early. But again, remember the whole story on timing and amounts. It is Sunday night right now. We're looking ahead towards next Sunday, and that's just too early to go to the bank on this yet. But we keep showing this because there's consistency here in the long-range models. It's keeping this chance of rain going. See what I mean? There's Sunday morning. That's when some of the better rain's moving across the bay at this point. And then we should get a break from it after that, going into next week. How much might we get? Well, we can kind of broad brush this idea. We'll look at the 2 long-range models, which are pretty much in the same ballpark. There's the first one. The American model says we get maybe about 3/10 of an inch of rain out of it, and the European says we probably also come away with maybe 7/10 of an inch of rain. That's a reasonable split for the 2 models to have this far out, and they're close enough for us to continue to lend some credibility to this. And we'll just watch it over the next few days to see how this is going to change, should it change at all, in terms of details and timings and amount, and we'll be updating you on all of that as we get closer to it. Let's go back to the story of the next 2 days. Beautiful weather. Take a look at the daytime highs for tomorrow, if we have them. In fact, since we've already seen those, let's see if the daytime highs show up for Monterey, and they do. These are the numbers taking us. Nope, those are the numbers that will be taking us into Saturday, and you'll be having daytime highs that land pretty much right where they were. I think that's a simple takeaway. Don't expect much change here in your forecast going all the way through Tuesday. Wednesday, look what happens. You get about 10 degrees cooler. It's not quite as sunny. you kind of stay there. You probably don't notice a whole lot going on here. And then we get back here for Friday and Saturday, and that's where we see the rain show up for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all 3 days, with perhaps a focus of that coming technically in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday. That's where the forecast stands for.
Pepsi, burgers, and lots of love for the 49er faithful. I'm here at Delancey Street Restaurant, where fans of the red and gold are being treated to NFL royalty. NFL Hall of Famer Patrick Willis is still making his mark, this time off the field, teaming up with Pepsi and the 49ers. The Niners legend helped provide free meals to fans and Delancey Street residents.
There's no place like the Bay Area. Maybe I'm a little biased. This is where I spent my whole professional career, and it's love. It's love here, and so to be able to come here and to receive the 49er love, to receive the love from the Delancey Street residents, it's really been special.
The love was mutual, as Willis shared his wisdom with the Delancey Street team.
Remember, man, you can't cheat the grind. The grind knows what you put in, all right? Yeah.
Delancey Street is a restaurant run by individuals working to rebuild their lives through a residential rehabilitation program.
It's more than a restaurant. It gives people a second chance at life to turn around and be positive.
In addition to inspiring Delancey residents, Willis also made the day for longtime 49ers fans.
I grew up watching him. It's just been amazing. It's a big heart. It makes everybody else's heart feel like softer. And we love him.
Willis also shared a message of motivation for this year's 49ers, urging the team to make every moment count.
Head up, chin up. Keep fighting the good fight of faith. Know that each opportunity that you have to go out there and play this fine game, you have to maximize it because you never know what may happen.
His playing days may be behind him, but Patrick Willis is still showing what it means to lead.
And that's it for us here at 5. We will see you back here at 6 for an hour of news.
Local news will continue streaming on CBS News Bay Area. We'll see you in 30 minutes.